Hey YouTube, this is David back again with another video. I got a feeling this video is going to be kind of a continuation of the last video that I did about the Rambo movies, and will also be the final installment of this little series I've been trying to do about just some of the popular franchises. Would have been, all in all, it would have been Star Wars. Don't really count Jaws as a franchise, but I went ahead and did one on Jaws. Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Rambo, and now this also will not really be so much of a franchise so much as just a broad my thoughts video about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his movies. I say and his movies because in my way, kind of like I did with Stallone and Rambo, I'm probably going to end up talking about Arnold the person, at least as much as I know of him, as someone who doesn't know him, but just what I see of him and read of him and hear him say and from the press and interviews and whatnot. As a fan of some of his films, certainly not Sabotage, and you know I'm going to rant on Sabotage a little bit more in this video. And again, this will be yet more of a prelude to the dark imagery in Hollywood video that I really want to put together to get some more things off my chest. But I need to say now that this is not to be mistaken, and I'll try and clarify this again in that video, that there's a difference between what I'm calling dark imagery and just action and violence in films. For instance, I'm afraid that maybe John Rambo, some of the stuff in there, I haven't even watched the movies, but what little bit I have seen online, that maybe some of that borders on what I'm talking about in the way of dark imagery. That is, it's like one thing to have an R rating, but it's like another, where it's like the brutality. And I know that I'm a fan of some war films, like for instance Black Hawk Down, but even more importantly maybe Saving Private Ryan, how they really went all out and set the bar at a whole other level in terms of realistic depictions of warfare, which really, if you're going to make a war movie, that is needful for the sake of honesty and realism. How, especially I'm thinking in terms of the opening sequence of Omaha Beach, all that, just, I was 14 or 15 when I saw that, and I saw it at the theater, big screen, and it just blew me away. But something else that is noteworthy while I'm talking about that, this just came to me. I distinctly remember, it's like this mental disconnect people can have between what they're seeing and what's being depicted, and you don't really know what's going to come of it. And no, I'm not trying to go on a rant about how video games and movie violence cause people to do violent things. I'm not in that camp. In fact, not that I'm trying to prove it, but one of my gameplay series is going to be Call of Duty 2, so I mean, and that's coming up in a little while, but I mean, there was a moment when I watched that opening sequence of the Omaha Beach sequence, Tom Hanks trying to keep as many of his men alive as he can as he's trying to take the beach, the Nazis gunning him right down with the machine gun fire, how someone had their arm blew off in that scene, that slow motion scene of the soldier all disoriented looking around for his arm, how ta-da, he finds it, he picks it up, and how I heard some people in the audience laugh like that was meant to be some kind of humor or something to give a small amount of levity among the nightmare. I didn't take it as that, and it just really kind of bothered me even then as I watched it. Why would anybody laugh at that? But then again, this just goes to what I'm talking about. And again, I'm not talking about actions in general or violence, shooting and actually showing a little bit of blood. No, I'm talking about something else. And I think the thing is, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about the brutality element. And anyway, I didn't mean to get off onto all that, but then again, this is yet another rambling video. All of my videos are just about me putting my thoughts out there, see if anybody wants to comment, talk to me, whatever. Schwarzenegger's films. I watched so many movies that I probably shouldn't have as a kid. In fact, I'll go ahead and say I shouldn't have watched. When I talked about RoboCop, I went ahead and talked about the comments that I actually heard from Paul Verhoeven himself when he talked about his childhood experiences related to World War II, how he saw some dead bodies, and yet it didn't register with him as a child on an emotional level, the brutality of what he was seeing, what's actually happened to another person, the destruction of life, and what it means, its effect, what's really occurred. Until later in life, the horror of it finally registered the way it should have, and it's something that, because of his childhood experiences, he said he always had a fascination with what the human body could take in terms of physical damage from wounds and such. And he talked about that in relating to RoboCop, and I can only ever think about the scene in Mr. Kinney when he's getting annihilated by the malfunctioning ED-209 or Ed-209 and other things, even Murphy being gunned down in cold blood, Alex Murphy. But back to Schwarzenegger's films, some of the ones that, because this is the first thought I had, I always skip the original thought somehow and go right to other things, and so people probably can't follow me, but I do the best I can here in these rambling videos. The way, for instance, in Terminator especially, when the Terminator goes and takes the police station, and so many, I think they mentioned the number in Terminator 2, how many policemen lost their lives or whatever, the Terminator killed them. It's really brutal, pretty brutal stuff. To me, that outweighs the goriness of watching the Terminator do a little bit of surgery on himself to make sure his fingers are retracting properly from the whatever shotgun blast to his arm or whatever, and removing his own eye and all this gory type stuff. That is essentially nothing to me now, even though I wouldn't want a little kid watching that. It's just what's being done to those people. That to me is much worse. And that to me, even when I pretended to be the Terminator, when I pretended to be Last Action Hero, when I pretended to be not so much Conan, since I didn't really see those movies, and I'm glad I didn't as a kid so much. But what else was there? There was Predator, how I'm the head of these soldiers, and how I'm Dutch, and how that was his name, and how I'm all these other people that Schwarzenegger was. Even in I'm going to be talking about mainly action movies, but how I had a long-lost twin that I watching all of his movies as a kid, twins and everything. It's just how I was that how I was Ben Richards, this guy framed and who has to overthrow the tyrannical entertainment system of the future and the corruption and all this stuff. How I was all these people. And even in some of the action, when I pretended to, like, I guess like the way kids play cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, whatever, shooting people, how it was nothing then. And then later, you're really in my mid to late teens, when I went back and watched some of the stuff, I was like, man, this is pretty bad. And I know I especially mentioned that about RoboCop in that video I did on that. But just to talk more specifically about Schwarzenegger's films, there were just so many of his movies that really, to me, he was like the biggest action star. And I'm talking about as I grew up, especially. But really even now, because of my memories from earlier life, earlier movies. The way Rambo, Sylvester Stallone, that seemed to be kind of a one-off, one character. I had watched Die Hard. Bruce Willis was like, this is just like this one thing, at least from the movies that I saw, what I saw, whereas I happen to have seen so many of Schwarzenegger's films, even Total Recall, just pretty much everything, I guess, except maybe some of his first things and Conan. Some of his movies that I just did not like were End of Days. I didn't really care to see him in that kind of thing, because I don't really buy into those kind of stories anyway, about the devil physically walking amongst us and all this. I mean, that's essentially nonsense to me. But Sabotage, I'd have to say, is even worse. Junk like that, you know. and not to rant on Schwarzenegger as a person as far as his acting career and everything, but it's like, I'll say what I've said before. I think there's so many, no matter if you're a young man or an old man, if there are better things that you could be doing with your time at any given point in your life, then that's something that can always be said. There are better things he could be doing with his time than making stinking movies like Sabotage. He could have made something much better, and I know that he's already signed on, no ifs, ands, or buts, it's going to happen. He's going to have these big theatrical releases still coming out, so he'll still be doing things. Terminator Genesis, like 1 and 2. He's going to be in like a part of a Conan movie. I don't know if he's going to be Conan or not. I don't know about that. It's just going to be something called Maggie, where he's the father of a zombie girl or something. Triplets has been announced. Just different things where he's like, he's going to be doing more stuff, and I really look forward to that. But I don't know why in the world he even made Sabotage, because it was a nothing movie. I don't even think it made his budget back. It was just awful. Just, there was nothing to that movie. Just gory, senseless people. Acting was not that good, and the story just stank with illogical, just holes. It was a Swiss cheese movie as far as the behavior, the logical connections were concerned, and the storytelling, and just yeah, I've said enough about Sabotage. Anyway, to get on with other films, really like Total Recall as a mine movie. Last Action Hero, I know a lot of people rant on, but I like the film. Something about his, it's like he was the last action hero. Not that he was the last action hero, but he was an action hero in that movie. Up on the screen within a screen, this magic ticket, whatnot, I don't know about that, but it's just, I enjoyed it a lot. Very entertaining. Some parts of it is like, can we get on to the next part? But I like Last Action Hero. I don't know why people hate on it the way they do, but yeah, the two stinkers with me, apart from maybe Junior when he has a baby, it's like, it's something I'll comment about that. And again, I'm not really want to talk about, I don't really want to get, I don't know Schwarzenegger personally. It's just, it seems like he's like he's like the alpha of alphas, Mr. Universe, I'll be back. It's like there's nobody quite like him, and you know what I mean. The personality he has, and how when you look at some of the commentaries about, what was it, Pumping Iron, the way he was like dog eat dog, almost to the point he's like, you know what, I don't really like you. I like Luther Rigno now. Like, forget you, Arnold. You're the way you are to do whatever it takes, even like mentally attacking somebody, that kind of thing. But it's like, he's like this alpha of alphas, and yet not once but twice he did this thing where, at least in my observation, where it's like he had to outdo trying to portray the opposite of all that, of the absolute masculine. He was a kindergarten cop. He can handle these kids. He can be this fatherly whatever. And of course, there's how did they make fun of it on Conan? The late night comedian Conan, not Conan the Barbarian. My all-time perennial holiday smash hit movie, Jingle All the Way, which really is a classic film to me. I like it a lot. I saw it at the theater. It seemed like it was a year, like the next Christmas before the movie came out. But yeah, I remember watching that and just being blown away. Like, man, this was so entertaining. And Arnold has yet again portrayed this, not an action hero, but this character all its own. But what I meant to say when I started that thought a minute ago was not to talk about Jingle All the Way, but to say, not only was he a kindergarten cop, because Vin Diesel and The Rock, they both went on, they also went like these tough guy action guys to being parental, not sissified and not effeminate, but you know, where it's like they had to put all that aside and deal with children, kind of a thing. The Pacifier, I forget what The Rock and or what Vin Diesel was in, but you know those movies they were in, The Babysitter or something like that, I don't remember. And yet Arnold, he not only did kindergarten cop, to preempt anybody else from being numero uno in the opposite direction from the ultimate macho action star to really embrace his feminine whatever side. He outdid anybody who would ever think about trying to outdo him in that direction, in that he was in a movie where he had a baby. So it's like he's not gonna be number two in anything. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. As far as the action movies though, and this is what I mainly wanted to talk about because he is primarily an action star, even though he's been able to prove himself in the humor department big time. And so many people have proved themselves in the humor department by being able to imitate Arnold and his voice. So it's just he's nobody quite like Arnold. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I leave it to you. It's just the imagery that he put into my head as a kid. I used to have the Schwarzenegger look when I was a kid. My mom would say, "Oh, he's mad now. He's gonna do his Schwarzenegger look." I would slowly turn with my eyes squinted at somebody, like perched, like lips tight, like you know, like he did in some of his movies. That's what Arnold was to me at different points when I was a young kid. Again, having watched some movies that I probably shouldn't have, that probably I wouldn't want a kid watching today, because no matter what Hollywood says about how PG-13 movies are more violent today than they were back in the day, the blood squibs are what, to me, instantly jumps off the chart in terms of what imagery is violent and what's not. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, I don't know what it was about that movie. It seemed like they shot an awful lot of bad guys. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe it was the sequence of the way they did things. Where I was like, man, this seems like it's almost like an R-rated flick. But yet there's no blood, hardly, when people are shot. And so they get away with all kinds of stuff. I'm thinking the escalator scene in Total Recall, how huge those blood squibs seem to be. Shooting a guy on the shoulder, instead of it being a flesh wound, it almost blows his arm off. That kind of thing. Just insanity. But yeah, I don't want to go into all of the films. This is, as usual, just a general synopsis of what I think of Arnold's depiction of action. And the truth is, I especially want to reiterate that I don't want to get into the psyche of Arnold, because I don't know it. I don't know the man. I don't know his mind. But it's just, I do have reservations, sort of, after hearing how he wants to defend movie violence, and yet that was right on the heels of, well, maybe the cusp of, but I don't know, it was right before or right after Sabotage was released, because the imagery in that film, I don't want to see, unless I'm, for whatever reason, watching a horror film. If I'm watching a horror film, yeah, I suppose then I want to see this garbage. But then, if I'm just watching an action movie where in the trailer it says Arnold, it makes you think that Arnold's wife and his family's been kidnapped, and he's going to destroy them. He's going to go after the people who've kidnapped him and rescue his family. Like, wow, that's the usual kind of plot, especially in an Arnold film. You got to go rescue your family, like in Commando. But no, they lied. His family was brutally murdered before the story that you see in the film begins. False advertising, a bunch of garbage. It's just nothing in that movie. And again, I don't mean to rant on Sabotage again, but it's like, it blows my mind. And again, I don't know what he's after when he says he wants to defend, he's trying to defend movie violence. And yes, we can have R-rated stuff and stuff, because I know there's the big brouhaha now about how Expendables is going to be rated PG-13 because Sylvester Stallone says we owe it to the next generation, even though the next generation doesn't give a care about the old action stars. I'm going to be 30 this month, and I'm basically the caboose, the tail end of that generation of people who even remember the old action stars. Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme, a little bit of Dolph Lundgren, Bruce Willis, and all the rest, Steven Seagal, which I haven't seen hardly any of his movies, 2 or 3, but I can't really remember. But I know he's made so many direct-to-DVD stuff like Van Damme and longer. It's like, what do you owe the next generation? It's all about the money now. And again, I don't mean to turn this into a cheerleader video for action movies, but it's like we seem to have our priorities skewed, our judgment, judgment skewed in terms of this rating stuff. Somehow it's twisted so that you can actually get away with the F word now in PG-13 movies. In my opinion, the F word and SHIT, this should not be anywhere in a PG-13 movie. To me, the second you start using that language, yeah, it's an R-rated flick now. Which I don't want to hear that language anytime, anywhere, anyway. But as far as the rating system, it's like people have lost their minds. And again, I'm not into action for the sake of action. If there's a good story about the good versus the evil, even The Stand, for instance, that was kind of a violent movie, even for an Arnold movie. Again, unreal big blood squibs toward the end with some of that action, but I still ended up liking that movie after I watched it on Netflix, instant streaming, because there were some people in that little story that I cared about. Yeah, the evil bad guy, he shot a FBI agent point blank range, taunting him about having a wife and a child, and then he murders him. Horrible imagery in this movie, to the point to where, because of some of the things it has in it, I probably wouldn't recommend somebody else watching it because of like little extremes. And yet, when you line it up to another movie like Sabotage, it instantly becomes a great movie. Not just good, great. You know why? Because there was a story about some people. There were heroes in it. There were some good guys who you wanted to make it. You wanted to succeed. You wanted to, if they're going to make a stand for their town and not let these drug dealers run amok, and these paramilitary goons and their actual law enforcement guys, a sheriff, going to stand it, going to make a stand, then you're rooting for them. Sabotage, you almost want the drug dealers to cap off these quote-unquote DEA imbeciles and just vulgar idiots and just let the credits roll. That's how bad the movie was. So good for Arnold, and that he made I guess a cult classic that some people can, like 8 or 9 people can say, yeah, I really like Sabotage. Well, good for you. You wasted a lot of time in producing this junk. But again, I don't mean to rant on Sabotage, but yeah. Let me keep going. So again, yeah, this is going to be, it is kind of turning into just one big prelude to my video I want to make about, just talking about imagery in Hollywood for my various complaints that I've collected over these past few videos about different things that just seem to be depicted in the absolute opposite way from what it ought to be, in my opinion. Then again, this part is just opinion. It's just my opinion that Arnold has told a few good stories in his time. Again, the PG-13 rated stuff is most likely going to be the best of all in my mind. Last Action Hero, maybe Jingle All the Way, Twins, because I'll take that kind of entertainment over a bloody action film. Yeah, that's how I prioritize it, because yeah, you don't really want action unless it's a good story, in my opinion. I don't really like action just for the sake of action, at least not as an adult man, you know, put away childish things at some point. But all the stuff that I saw as a kid that put all of the imagination into my mind, the Terminator and all this other stuff, the Predator, what are you, that kind of thing. owe a good bit of it to the things that I saw as a kid. And some of the things, I know I've gone on and on about all the different things. This has just been a few of it. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, all these different things that I talk about. But this video is just about that little bit of acknowledgement that, yeah, I watched a lot of Arnold's movies growing up. Late 90s, well, I was born in 84, I wasn't really watching them. I watched that stuff in the 90s and when other stuff was coming out. True Lies, probably the neatest little act, maybe the last one that he did that was semi-good, because some things about The Sixth Day, I just didn't care for. End of Days, and certainly just hated Sabotage. I liked Escape Plan with him and Stallone. It seemed more like just a prison movie than an action movie. Maybe not even the best escape from prison movie, because that's where the action started to come in, and the way they did that, I was like, I was still entertained like all get out, especially mostly by Arnold in his different scenes, especially when he's ranting in German about, you are evil, you are the devil. All this stuff is pretty good, but that one scene of him with the big gun at the end, with the when he's gunning down all the bad guys, it's like, it seems like we're trying to play catch up now. But that's the movie that really, where it finally struck me that he and Stallone, even though I'd love to see him in more movies, it's like they really can't move, run and jump, that is, anymore. Even though you still love seeing them in movies, but I guess they could just leave more to the stunt people now. But it's still their name. I still love their name. I look forward to their stuff a lot of the time, whether I end up liking it or hating it. You still just like them for the most part, especially Stallone. Not so much Arnold anymore in real life, because it's like he's done all kind of things now. It's like I can't help but I have trouble separating the actors from the characters that they play sometimes, and not the characters, that is, but well, you know what I'm saying. It's just sometimes you hear so much junk from one actor, and I'm not talking about Arnold now. I'm actually thinking about somebody else I have in mind too. It's like you just hear so much junk out of them that it's like I don't care to watch them in anything else anymore. They put you off so much. Anyway, I guess this has been a good enough acknowledgement of Arnold's influence over my young boy imagination. A lot of the stuff has had to go right back out over time, but just to acknowledge this, I feel like it's important the more I talk about it, because let me go ahead and just give maybe a favorite movie. A lot of people, especially as they keep going with this Alien versus Predator stuff from other Predator movies, it's like they seem to have lost their way in terms of... I like some things about Predators, and I'm only talking about Predators now because I was going to say that maybe Predator might be my favorite Arnold movie when if I had to say, because even though there are several that I like, that's probably the one where I might have the least complaints with. So yeah, why not? I'll go ahead and say that Predator is my favorite movie of his. Although I love the little story of Running Man, Stephen King story. Who knows? Maybe that's number 2. I know I've said before when I was talking about the Aliens movies that I view it's like a neck and neck between Aliens and Terminator 2 as far as the best sci-fi sequel. But as a kid, the Terminator it was just another one of those things that it captured my imagination. The robot man, just being indestructible, that kind of thing, that caught the imagination of a kid. I mean, it still catches captures people's imagination now. Like, even now, I'm looking forward to the movie he'll be in. It's just I worry that it's just going to be some cash grab, not a good story, starting over, a prequel, remake, whatever. I don't know. We'll just see what it is. But yeah, maybe I'll say that as a top 3, with Predator maybe being my favorite of Arnold's movies. But I can't keep going. I gotta stop. So yeah, this has been my video on Arnold's action movies. I could go on about the ones that aren't action, but the 2 that I probably have in mind the most are the ones that I've seen. I probably like Kindergarten Cop if I saw it recently. It's just I only watched it a couple times. But I really love Twins a lot. Maybe more than Jingle All the Way. I don't know. It's just Jingle All the Way is such a classic. But I love the coming together of the Lost Brothers. Danny DeVito's character too in Twins. I really liked it. His problems and how he grew as a person and all this stuff. But anyway, I'm ranting now. I'm rambling and keep going. I gotta stop. This has been my little tribute to Arnold, as it were, whatever it's worth. Hopefully he'll make some good stuff in the future. Better than Sabotage, at any rate. Anyway, thank you for listening to me, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.